Today on our Motorworks, we're going to dive into some wheels and tires, hubs, and later on in the episode we're going to put the front forks back together. Kristin, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be back for round 2 of putting it back together now.
Yep, this is the best part, reassembling, because that's that much closer to actually riding a bike.
Hopefully I don't mess it up.
Only one way to find out, you're your first one test ride.
Great.
Cool, let's get started. We'll do an overview and see what we got in front of us. Alright, so we got some new tubes and tires. We got our wheel halves ready to go together with our hardware. Front hub is nice and polished, hardware is cleaned up. New bearings and seal to go together in there. We got a nice rat, pre-chewed and opened sprocket to go on the back. Bearings and seal for the rear hub along with some new studs, nuts, lock plate. We're going to grease up everything we need to grease up, Loctite everything we need to Loctite, and get this thing together. Alright, so I'm going to work on the rear, you're going to work on the front.
Okay.
Let's start by opening up all these packages of goodies. One thing to note when putting these hubs together, the bearing that doesn't have any shielding goes on the snout side, we'll call it, with the seal that goes on the top. Flipping this around, the bearing with one side being shielded, that will go as such, sealing this brake side off. Okay, we're all set up in the hydraulic press. Always make sure whatever you're using to press in is a loose fit than whatever you're pressing in, because you don't want to have to unpress that. So let's get it all lined up. I should get my hand out of the way. Go just until you feel resistance in the handle, and then back it off. One side done. Now on the other side. Don't forget to put in the sleeve that goes in between the bearings. Bearing on the top. All done, ready to go. Slide that out. And release the pressure.
To the right.
Other way.
Left.
There you go. There you go.
Oh, that's cool.
And then close the valve. And then we're going to flip it, put in the spacer, and put the other bearing in.
So just like,
yep.
So.
And actually I'm going to move these plates over. So you're more on the flat here instead of
the awkward, yeah. And then
see it goes out? Yep.
Out. When do I have to release this again?
Nope. You can pump that faster if you want until we start it up in contact.
So how do I release it now that it's off? Let me see.
Give it another pump. Keep going. It should align itself now.
No.
Can I release it? That's good. Stop. That's it.
Whatever. Right?
Yep.
There she is.
Cool. Alright, so we've got our bearings pressed into our hubs. Next we're going to use some snap ring pliers on the front with this internal snap ring. How this works is these two prongs go in these holes here, which allow you to squeeze and reduce the size of this to get inserted into that hub there. This is an internal snap ring, and what's great about this tool here, flip of a switch, you can now use it for an external snap ring.
Pretty cool.
Alright, so take this guy, take little prongs, put them in just like that on the edge, and we'll do it on the front where you squeeze it, put it all the way in, force it down, take the tool out, and if it doesn't go into that groove right away, we'll use a little screwdriver to kind of help it along.
Oh, making everything fall over. Just like so.
Yep.
Perfect.
That's it.
Simple.
Up next, that's seal.
Alright. Steel's got kind of two different sides to it. One smooth and then the rigid side.
Yep.
Side goes out.
Seal installation. We have this area with the dish, and we can kind of see a little spring inside there. It's very tiny in there. We see that little spring kind of wraps around. That goes to the inside, so this will get assembled on just like that. On the rear, we've got this metal walled seal that we're going to place on, tap in with our hammer.
Impressive.
Having some difficulties on that?
Yeah, just one side.
So we get these little tabs here on the side, these little openings. We can use that to push the seal down even farther. Press it down on the side. Like they planned it.
I think they made it for you that way. Is that really the best one?
Good. So the front hub is done.
Fantastic.
We've got some extra steps to do on the rear. Get and tap and chase those threads. Probably already have this set up. Before installing the new studs, what I like to do is run a tap through the holes to clean out the threads. Make sure everything's going to go in nice and easy. Have you ever used a tap before?
Nope.
So what a tap does, starts smaller and gets bigger, and it basically looks like a screw, and it's got these little grooves that go inside.
Huh.
If I was manufacturing this part, I would drill this hole just smaller than the bolt that goes in it. Use a tap, and it'll cut the thread in the middle, internally as it goes in. Because these threads already exist, we're just going to take this and we're going to clean out the threads that are already there. You have to be very careful in getting it started. You want it to start nice and easy. And make sure it's starting to grab. Just take this and just thread it in like a tight rope.
All the way.
Yep. Until you don't see any more threads on it. You're doing it.
Yeah, no, I don't see anymore.
Reverse the rotation on this guy by turning it,
To the
whichever opposite way it is. And back up. Nope, other way. Nope, leave that as is. Turn this the other way. There you go.
oh, I don't know if it
Me neither.
I don't know who signed me up for this job.
You're dressed for it better than me. I mean,
That's true. Gotta earn my way into the sport. Did get out a lot of that.
good.
Cool.
Now I'll do the other two because I don't remember which one I did. We can stop here. We hit a milestone. I thought it was lefty loosey by the kite. Didn't you tell the world that?
You know, things change in a month.
I got that on video.
I'm on vacation. Forgot everything about life. How does this all work?
So because there might be some extra debris in the threads, we're going to use a compressed air and we're going to blow those out just to make sure it's clean. And if you're working with somebody who isn't familiar with compressed air, you can startle them really easily.
Why, thank you.
Let's go in. You trying to go in or out?
Yeah, in. This is my third one.
Carry on.
Because you didn't remember which one you started
I
with.
didn't even remember what you're doing.
It happens. That's why this is not my job. In real life.
I'm not learning either. I just paid it for a TV show with 3 people that watch it.
All 3 have been done.
Now when you take this, take compressed air and just blow the extra stuff in there. Out. So now, these guys thread in really nice. I don't remember if I mentioned which side goes in there. The long threads go to the actual hub. Probably said it backwards.
Yeah.
Just make sure that people are paying attention.
There'll be a test at the end of this.
There will be a test. I always put a little bit of this thread locker on these threads.
Just like a dab on one part. That's all you need.
Because as it threads, it will distribute itself across them. So we can thread it in by hand to a certain point. And then we can take 2 of these nuts, put them together like so. And if we take the right size wrench, first try.
It's a facade. Only your top look.
So we can tighten these against each other, like so.
So one way and one the other.
And that will allow them to lock on the stud. And we can tighten the stud down. Once the stud is tightened down, take these guys, separate them from each other, and then both spin off.
And then it's tight in there.
Yep.
Thank you.
So then we'll do the other 3. This guy will go on there. One stud installed, we'll get the other 2 installed. Sprocket goes into place, followed by our locking plate, followed by a nut, We'll bend up these two tabs, and this will be done. So I think this guy will have to go on once this is through the wheel halves.
Still can't believe it's really only that amount of thread locker. But it makes sense.
I've seen it where people have literally coated the entire everything with the thread locker, and it is terrible to work with. It will be so much on threads all over everything. Trying to get it out is a nightmare. Because at that point, you have to take a torch and you have to heat it up to burn out all the thread locker.
Oh. How long does it take the thread locker to seal?
So how it works is it works via lack of oxygen. It's anaerobic. So when you tighten it, the threads kind of press and seal against each other. So it's instant, and I say that in quotes, but there's like some hour interval cure time that they recommend. But it sort of starts working right away, and then to a point, and then gets even stronger as time goes on. Okay, last one.
Way quicker than I would get it done.
I've got a little more practice.
So this may be a dumb question, but are most of the parts that are on these standard parts on all bikes?
Yes and no.
Okay.
They're standard metric fasteners, so a lot of thread pitches and diameters are all the same, which is why the taps that I have usually work on most things. But really, the Z50 that we're building has been around since 1967, 68, and there's many similarities that carried up until 1999, which was the last year of the Z50. A lot of these parts were similar. Then between the XR50 and looked a little more modern. So there's a huge range of Honda New Trail parts that are all similar and work together. But as far as like this stuff applying to the 450 over there, no.
Oh.
So we are done with hubs, bearings, studs. We are ready to go to wheels and tires next. So let's get those. All right, wheels and tires are done with hubs.
Yep.
They look great.
Excellent.
Front fork is next.
Yeah.
So let's take a closer look and see what we got here. Axle, polished brake assembly, fork legs. We've got new boots, new slider bushings, the same spring assemblies, roll pins, new seals that will go inside these caps, our nice fender, painted forks. All of this will go inside here, capped off with the castle nut, top nut, and these two retaining nuts on this plate. Hold everything together. We're going to start by replacing the seals and these little pieces that hold the rubber boots. So let's start there. Looking at our blown out seal here, I'm going to take a screwdriver, pop that guy on out, just like that. And now Kristin's going to try and see how easy it is. Put it on the table so you don't stab yourself.
That would be a bad day.
How easy was that?
Too easy.
they're hired.
Sweet.
So now we're going to clean up the inside and then install our new seals. Alright, so we got this wiped out and we're going to install our seal with this opening facing up. And it should, if we're lucky, press into place with minimal effort. And it did. Next, we're going to slide these fork boots on the fork tubes, followed by our caps, slider bushings, spring with roll pin, lightly grease the assembly, then it's ready to go into these nice pretty painted forks. Now that we've got our boot collar slider bushing on there, we can go ahead and install spring assembly. We'll slide that in, tap it in, keep it in place with this roll pin, and this whole assembly is going to be ready to go in the fork. Roll pin's installed. Our cartridge assembly, pending some light grease on the slider bushing, is going to be ready to install in the forks. We went ahead and attached the fork boot to this cap, lightly greased this assembly, and it's ready to go into the fork. So we've got the little dimples aligned on the top of our forks here with the cartridge. We went ahead and slid these inside the fork tube, threaded these collars back on until they stopped. Everything is seated, everything looks and feels great. Next, just for completeness sake, we'll put the bearing on here, top triple clamp and the nut, and put it off to the side, and then we'll be ready for reassembly soon. This guy is ready to go on the bike.